Welcome everyone out to today's webinar on why you should focus on collecting online reviews, how to build a solid reputation through online reviews. You're all on mute right now, but if you have a question, submit it at the GoToMeeting and we'll be sure to respond at the end. Just a couple of other housekeeping items. The session is going to be recorded and it can be accessed from the Furniture Today site. So we are glad you all joined us today. We're going to talk about online reviews and how they can benefit your business. Today's presenters are going to be Nico, Dato, Head of Marketing at Podium, and Nick Miller, Regional Sales Director and Subject Matter Expert on online reviews at Podium as well. So I will turn the time over to Nico and Nick.
Perfect. Thanks, John. Like John said, my name is Nico. I run marketing here at Podium. And along with me is Nick Miller. He's our Regional Sales Director. Really kind of our subject matter expert when it comes to reviews and retail. Sorry, it looks like we're having a few issues with the screen, but I think we have it working now. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into this. So today's agenda is actually packed full of information. So hopefully you guys walk away with some good takeaways. Our goal of every webinar or educational session is to make sure that it's as educational as possible for you guys, and you guys can take some good things away from this presentation that are actually actionable. One of the big issues that we commonly see with a lot of educational webinars is nothing's actionable, it's just all good ideas. So hopefully there's some things you guys can take away and start implementing almost immediately. Like John mentioned, our moderator mentioned, we are going to record this session. We will have slides as well. So we'll make sure that gets out to everyone, just in case you guys missed something. During the session, feel free to just chat any questions in, and then we're going to open it up to Q&A at the very end of the presentation. And so we'll do our best to get to all the questions you have. If we don't by chance get to your questions, we'll make sure we follow up to get those answered for you. With that said, let's just jump right into it. So to kind of set the foundation for today, it's important to kind of understand how a lot of businesses today are collecting feedback and why the method that you use to collect feedback really matters. And if you talk to anyone from Podium, they're going to tell you pretty much the same thing. Online reviews can serve really as the best way to ensure that you're getting good qualitative and quantitative feedback from your customers. And when I say quantitative, why I speak to quantitative is because you're actually getting in-depth feedback on why they didn't like the experience with your business versus a customer satisfaction survey that says, hey, out of 1 through 10, tell us how we did. If you get a 7 means something different to everyone, right? You don't know what the 7 means. You don't know if that's good or if that's bad or if it's mediocre or why you got the 7. Whereas online reviews kind of give you this insight into why your customers were or weren't happy. Nick could actually probably speak further on that. I'm sure he will. He comes from a background working for his last company who really specialized in satisfaction surveys. And he'll be the first one to tell you that they do work in a lot of instances, but reviews really provide this quantitative feedback that you can't find anywhere else. The second is focus groups. Focus groups can be great. The thing with focus groups is generally they're expensive. They take time to coordinate. They take time to do. And you're really only grabbing insights from a small group versus kind of the broad audience who are engaging with your business. So just wanted to lay some foundation there before we move on. To further the conversation around why reviews matter, really is kind of centered around the idea of local SEO. For those of you who don't know what it is, it's basically SEO or search engine optimization around a geographic area. So you can think of this as potential customer searching furniture stores in Miami, Florida, or furniture stores near me or retail shops near me. And basically what local SEO is doing is returning results to that searcher that are relevant to them in their geographic area. And reviews really can help play an impact as to where you will show up. The second is they help influence purchase decisions. We've got a couple of stats scattered throughout this presentation that you'll see that really kind of back up the idea that online reviews can help boost confidence in your brand or your business and really help move people along that sales process a lot more quickly. The very last is improving business operations. This is kind of what we talked about in the last slide. What you're going to gain from this in-depth feedback is ideas and actionable insights to really be able to improve your business, whether that's in training or business processes or whatever. It's going to give you insights to really make good, impactful changes to your business. Now, before we jump on, I really wanted to just talk through real quick how Google determines local rankings. And this goes back to the local SEO that I talked about a second ago. And why I want to talk about this is because this tends to be one of the top 3 reasons why people really care about optimizing and collecting reviews. And it's for that local SEO benefit. So when Google's determining local rankings and which sites they will show up, depending on the search query, so like furniture stores in Miami, what Google's actually going to do is look at the relevance. First of all, it wants to make sure that the listing matches what the consumer's searching for. By that, I mean, if they're searching for a furniture store, they're not going to serve up a dentist. They want to make sure the relevance is there, right? It's providing a good user experience for the person searching. The second is going to be distance or proximity. So how close is your business to where the searcher is? Google's made huge strides in the last few years as far as the location of where a searcher is, relative to where the business actually is. It used to be based off what they call the city center. It wasn't as accurate. Now it's getting far more accurate. So if they're in your area, you want to make sure you're optimized to get that indoor traffic. And there is a stat, and I'm not going to say a number because I'll botch it, but it's something around the idea of X% of people who search for a business on their mobile device will visit that store within 24 hours. So this distance piece becomes very, very important in trying to make sure that those people who are searching for products or services like yours end up at your showroom. The very last would be prominence. This is really where reviews come into play, in addition to a few other factors, but we won't get too far in the weeds. But reviews, as far as prominence goes, is very, very important. And there's a couple of ways that Google will determine, the prominence, but kind of the core pieces for this discussion today is really around the number of reviews you're collecting and the quality of those reviews. Meaning, they want to make sure that you have a high quantity of reviews at a high quality. In this case, that might be 4 or 5 stars. They don't want to serve up a business they know is not providing great experience. And then the very last piece to that I would mention is recency. So just making sure that you're consistently getting a good flow, because people don't want to see a good review from 5 months ago. They want to see a good review from last week to ensure that the experience that the person for them got is the same that they'll get if they visit. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Nick. Nick's going to go ahead and talk about how online reviews can turn browsers into buyers.
Great, thanks, Nico, and really excited to be with everyone today. So just to give you a little more background on myself and to touch on some of the things that Nico mentioned, I used to work for one of the largest online survey providers and customer experience providers in the world, and for a number of years spent my time helping set up CX programs and NPS programs for large and small organizations. And one of the questions that I often got was, how can we turn this internal feedback into external marketing campaigns, or just how can we get this positive information externally to help drive our business? And there really was no easy way to do that. So to touch on some of the things Nico said, online reviews is a great way not only to get this customer insights that you want as a business, but to help those insights actually grow the business in turn. So works out really well, and we're going to talk a lot about today the how, what, and why of online reviews. And what I want to touch on now is actually when it comes at the end of the day, right, all these things are really good, but how does that actually increase my business? How do I turn these browsers into buyers and increase my revenue? And ultimately, that's what we want to do. Anytime we're purchasing anything or we're investing time and money, we want to know the ROI. So I want to talk a little bit about that now. So let's walk through a typical buying process and how reviews are going to actually play into those. So first is awareness. More and more, and really at an exponentially significant rate, online research is increasing. And everyone's competing for these views and these clicks online. So first of all, you just need to be able to be found. So awareness, 61% of buyers use online reviews to learn about new products and services. So online reviews is a great way to help you stand out and help you get found in the first place. Second is just the consideration process. One of the questions I think it's important to ask yourself is what's that viewer's first impression of your business when they find you online? As they're reading your reviews, what impression are they coming away with? And they'll be able to really hurt or help your business. So this stat here is really interesting. 80% of consumers trust online reviews as much as personal recommendations. And what's nice about online reviews is you can really build a portfolio and a lasting legacy of people who are happy with your business and have actually gone through your service, right? And been able to tell other people about it. Last is just the decision process. So another good question to ask yourself is are your reviews building trust, and do they reflect the actual experience of what people are having? So 68% of buyers say that positive reviews make them trust a local business more. Again, that kind of comes back to reviews can either help or they hurt your business, and we'll talk about a little bit more about how up to right now it's really been the negative customers who are the loudest online, and it gives a really unfair indication of how you actually do business. And so we'll show you some ways that actually help you give your positive customers a voice online as well.
One thing I would just add, if it's okay, Nick, is I'm going to rattle off a bunch of stats without knowing the exact numbers, but there's another stat that came out that we saw about a month or two ago that's saying that most buyers can actually now be like 70 or 80% through the buying process before even talking to your company, meaning they already know everything about your inventory, who you are, what you offer, and then they come to you. So it's really important to make sure you're doing this selling, and I do that in air quotes, digitally before they come to your store. Because if you don't even have the opportunity to sell them digitally, you won't even have the opportunity to talk to them. So I think that's just another important sticking point there.
Yeah, no, thank you, Nico. That's a great point. So we'll touch on each three of those phases of the buying process real briefly. Again, to talk a little bit more about the awareness phase. I love what Nico talks about with local SEO. That's one of the major reasons that companies come to us to ask about online reviews and want to increase the quantity and quality of their online reviews is just to help them be found in the first place. What's nice about increasing that exposure is it does help with your other marketing tactics, and Nico's going to touch on that a little bit later as well. So you can acquire leads and customers at actually a lower cost than some of the traditional methods that are out there. The consideration phase, again, just want to emphasize this stat that 80% of consumers will trust online reviews as much as a personal recommendation. So that's huge. We all know that word of mouth is often the best type of marketing and brings in the warmest leads. And now you can do that on a much broader scale with a solid online reputation. Last part of the decision phase, there's so many companies, I mean hundreds and thousands of options for people to buy the same necessary product that you sell. And so it comes down to that decision process. What's going to make you different than the store around the corner or the other website where they can purchase more or less some of the same products? And a lot of that's going to come down to them just wanting a positive experience. And nothing will make them feel more confident in buying with you than seeing that other consumers have had already that positive experience. So it really plays a big part into just getting you, differentiating you from the competition. With that, so want to talk about just how influences or how reviews, I touched on this briefly, how reviews influence just purchase decisions, and just a couple more stats to kind of hammer this home. So again, 90% of consumers say purchase decisions are influenced by online reviews. So people are reading reviews. 80% of consumers trust online reviews as much as personal recommendations, and 80% of consumers won't even consider a business with a low rating. So this becomes huge. Again, reviews will either hurt or they'll help your business. And when someone comes on and looks, and if you have a negative review, for example, and if that's the first impression that they're getting, they may not even get to your website at that point. And so they become really imperative to have just a really solid online reputation.
Perfect. Yeah, so Nick kind of just touched on a little bit why these negative reviews and how these negative reviews may be hurting your business. So we're going to dive in a little bit. Before we jump too far, I just want to say no business is immune to negative reviews. Literally every business will at some point get negative. And you know, there's a number of reasons. One is you can't please every single customer. The second is they may have caught you or one of your employees on a bad day, right? It may have just been a bad day, or there was some misunderstanding. Like, there are a million reasons why a business can get a negative review, but what really matters when it comes to these negative reviews is how you respond to them. What's interesting is, like we kind of mentioned in the last one, is only 13% of consumers will actually reconsider a business with a 1 to 2-star rating. But what you'll actually see is this effect where consumers will see the business responding to these negative reviews, and in turn they're thinking, oh man, these people must really, really care about the experience they provide, or they're really focused on giving a good experience, or they responded with a reasoning for why the experience is bad and a proactive way to ensure to right that wrong. So really when it comes down to it, it really matters how you respond to these negative reviews, because everyone's going to get them. What you can do when these negative reviews come in, though, is really ensure that you're kind of drowning them out with positives, and that's something we'll get to here in a second. So real quick, just to talk through what you should do if you get a negative review. The first thing you want to do is make sure you're not letting emotions get involved. The best thing I can offer here is make sure someone detached from the situation is the person responding. This can usually be a store manager or someone who's dedicated to marketing, or anyone. Generally, it's going to be the salesperson or someone else as far as the reasoning for why they're upset. So just make sure it's someone detached. And once you decide who's going to respond, the very first thing you should do is apologize. Whether or not you think you're in the wrong, apologize. Makes everything a lot better. Make sure you're responding calmly, and make sure you're offering a proactive, solution, a way to make this wrong right. And then lastly, just make sure you take the conversation offline as quickly as possible. Just to verbally give you an example of how we might suggest you respond, might be somewhere along the lines of, hey, I'm so sorry about the experience. If you want to give us a call here or email us here, we'll do our very best to make sure that we make this, right for you. So what you're doing there is you're responding calmly, you're apologizing, you're offering a proactive solution, and really trying to get that offline as quickly as possible. And one note to add here, and Nick, I don't know if you have anything to add on this, but one note to add here is you can actually, if you fix the issue, it's not against the rules to ask them to go and fix their negative review. We actually see that quite a bit where people will get back on, change their 1-star review to a 5-star review because the person from the business actually took the time to reach out and fix the issue.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point, and we'll touch on this a little bit in a minute, but I have a lot of people who think it's the end of the world if they get a 1-star review, and it's really not. There's a lot of ways where you can use these negative reviews to actually benefit your business, and like Nico touched on it, it's really how you should respond and how you use negative reviews that are going to impact it one way or the other. So while they can be negative and be hurtful for your business, if you take a proactive approach, they really can turn into a positive.
Yep, completely agree. Now, with that said, and Nick kind of, again, just pitched this for me, but if you do get a negative review, it's actually not the end of the world. It's actually a good thing in a lot of ways, because what you can effectively do is optimize and really kind of drive your customer experience by understanding what people do and do not like. So there's this customer experience feedback loop that we talk about a lot here at Podium. And really the process goes as follows. A transaction happens, reviews left, and this is for negative review. A review response happens. Hopefully you're fixing things during that review response time. Then you're altering processes or you're making changes to training or whatever else you have. And then basically you're back to that new transaction, right? So effectively what this is offering is every single transaction or review you get, particularly negative, allows you the opportunity to optimize your customer experience. We found this process is extremely helpful, especially for managers, and we can't stress this enough. It's really, really, really helpful. So I won't touch on this too much, but this is a really, really good part of getting negative reviews. With that said, I'm going to pass it back over to Nick.
Yeah, so we touched on this quite a bit already, so how negative reviews might actually help your business. And there's a couple of things that are really nice about honestly getting this kind of feedback from your customers. Now, sometimes it's going to be feedback that maybe is not 100% accurate, right? Maybe that customer didn't qualify for credit, and so they blame you as the business or whatever it is. But these customer insights can be really impactful and really helpful for your business. And so just to, again, reemphasize what Nico was saying is these negative reviews can really be a positive for what you kind of are trying to do. But oftentimes, again, we see that the online reviews are maybe not representative completely of how you actually do business. And so, again, the negative customers are often the loudest online. And there's a couple things that we see that companies try to do to kind of combat that. And so a couple things that we would suggest is don't try to game the system. So Google, Yelp, a lot of these review companies have a lot of things in place to find if reviews are fake or if they're posted from the same IP address. And there's a lot of things in place to make sure that you're not trying to game the system. There's great ways of collecting a lot of reviews from real customers without trying to do that. So that would be our word of warning is don't try to game the system. And second of all, it just comes down to actually good customer service. And that's why we have, CX programs. That's why we want to collect the number of reviews and get customer insights, is so we can make internal changes and focus on the customer. And then here's an interesting stat, just 99% of customers write reviews to help others make good decisions. Quick quote from someone that we work with: I don't ever look at a negative review as a setback. I see it as an opportunity to improve. And now we just want to talk about some tips for collecting more reviews. And I know we want to leave some time for questions and answers here, so we'll go through this fairly quickly. And again, if you have any questions as we go through this, feel free to chat those in and we'll address those. First of all, just determine the right time the timing of the review invite. So make sure that you are sending it at a time where it's going to be most convenient for the customer to be able to leave this review. This could be just after a transaction happens. Maybe someone had just purchased something in the store. It could be after a delivery of a furniture or an appliance. So you know your business and you know the best time to catch those people in an exciting and the best time for them to most likely leave you a positive review. The second thing we see just to help get more reviews is building the ask into your processes. And so whether it's through the sales reps or the frontline employees or through any other automated system, it's important that there is some sort of system in place where you build that ask into it. So this could be at closing. Again, that's just an example. Maybe you're wrapping up a sale and the frontline employee says, "Thank you so much, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, for coming in. I'm going to actually send you a review invite. It really helps us out if you leave that review, and we're going to send that to you here in the next couple minutes." So just building that ask into your processes is really going to help just with response rates and getting more reviews on some of these sites that matter to your business. A big part of that is just taking control. So leaving your reviews up to just organically happen, there's some danger in that, again, because you can a lot of times get a really unfair indication of how you actually do business. I have a high-end retailer that I work with who had just 4 reviews on Google, and 3 of those were 1-star. And this is an awesome store, right? Their customer satisfaction surveys come back really positive. They're growing, so obviously they're doing something right. But online, it looked like they had a really negative reputation just on Google. But we can turn that around really quickly just by taking control over your online reviews and not leaving it up to chance of who's going to actually go on and take the time to leave that review. One of the important things here is going to be just setting the right expectations. So we talked about when to send out a review invite. You should let them know how they're going to receive it so they can expect it, whether that's an email or a text message, and then why it's important for them to respond. So a consumer most happy customers are really willing to leave you a positive review, and it makes them feel important if they know it's important to you. So having the right ask and sending it at the right time and telling your customer, hey, this is important to our business because it really helps us in this way, helps them feel more involved and again, a little bit more important, and the likelihood of them leaving your review is going to go up. When we talk about just, response rates when it comes to inviting someone to leave your review, the most important thing is just making it easy for the customer. So let's face it, we're all a little bit lazy, and we live in a day and age where if a video is buffering for more than 2 seconds, I just move on with my life and I don't watch it. We just have to have things immediate, and we have to make it easy. And that comes down to just eliminating barriers. And another way of saying that is maybe eliminating the amount of clicks or steps that it takes to leave a review. And so anything to do to help eliminate steps is going to, again, increase the likelihood of, first of all, getting a review and getting a positive review. Part of that could be using review sites that are familiar or that your customers most likely already have an account for. The big 3 are often we talk about are Google, Yelp, and Facebook, depending on your demographic. And streamlining the process. So just making it very easy for them, and from their own smartphone, 2 or 3 clicks, leave you a 5-star review without asking them to remember to go do it, and having 5 or 6 steps that are going to take them, even 3 or 4 minutes to leave a review is often enough to shy people away from it. And then ultimately, again, just deliver high-quality service. I mean, there's nothing that you can do to substitute just high-quality service and customer service for your customers. One thing we want to touch on here is just invite via text. So with the text message, we see a much higher response rate. So when we're talking about response rates in general, the first thing you'll want to look at is really an open rate or even a view rate. And a text message is going to have a 99% open rate. So your people are at least seeing that invite. And like you, I get probably 10 or more emails a day from every business I've ever gone to. And the likelihood of me opening that is fairly low at this point. And so a text message is going to give you a much higher chance of actually getting someone to open that invitation and follow through with leaving you a review. Now here's some stats. I won't go through all of them, just to kind of hammer that home about the importance of using or having things mobile optimized. And I think the biggest one there, again, is 99% of the text messages will be opened versus 23% on an email. With that, I just want to maybe wrap things up here, and I'll pass this over to Nico about how you can leverage online reviews in other areas of your marketing.
Yeah, that was great. One thing I just wanted to add to kind of what Nick talked about, and we'll get through this section so we can open up to Q&A, but when deciding the best way to build that ask in your process and to collect those reviews, really sit down and take a look at your demographic. What you'll most likely find is that a majority of your customers have a cell phone. And if they have a cell phone, they usually have it strapped to their side, and probably the most convenient way for them to leave that review is going to be through a text message to that phone where they can easily, and quickly leave a review versus them leaving, having to go look up your Google profile, find out where the stars are, write it out, and leave it. So really, the only thing I would add to that is just make sure you're looking at your demographic to understand what they have so that you can eliminate as many barriers as possible and make it as easy as possible. With that said, after you've done that and you're collecting your reviews, make sure you're leveraging them in all your pieces of collateral. The only thing I would add to this is you need to make sure you're doing it compliantly. So you don't want to copy and paste that review verbatim, because a lot of times sites like Google, Yelp, Facebook, and others might have in their terms and conditions that they actually own the review. While it may be about your business, they own the content of the review. But what you can do is use that as kind of a qualifier to understand where you can go to get the best social proof or case studies from your customers. And once you're doing this, it's super easy to use it in things like print or billboards. The website's probably the most obvious. We have a client who spends basically their entire budget on PPC and radio, and the content of both of those is almost 100% around the online reviews that they collect from the customers that they collect them from. And then blog is another really, really obvious one. So make sure you're leveraging these reviews. Don't just have them as the one and done. While they're going to work really well for you on the digital side, while people are searching, there are a million other ways that you can utilize and get more ROI out of collecting those reviews.
One thing, Nico, I'll just add to that. We talked about when we were talking about eliminating barriers is just using the review sites that are most common and where people are most likely to, one, have an account and find your business. And when it comes to like PPC, a lot of the companies we work with, for example, are running AdWords. And so having a high number of reviews on Google, a lot of people don't know is once you cross a certain threshold, you can actually include your star rating in your AdWords, which is going to increase the amount of clicks that you get and then make that cost per click actually go down. So you can save some money on your PPC by actually getting a high number of reviews. And that's another benefit of actually having a high number of reviews, again, on these most popular sites, is leveraging the marketing you may already be spending with these sites with those reviews.
Yeah. And what Nick's referring to is basically an AdWords extension that can allow you, if you have a certain quantity and quality of reviews, to add those to your pay-per-click ads on Google. So, yeah, thanks for bringing that up. The last thing that we would mention, and I'll do my very best not to be completely biased on this piece, is use an online review management platform, even if it's not Podium's. That's what we do, by the way, is help collect and manage online reviews. Even if it's not Podium's platform, please just get a platform in place. But do your very best to understand what that platform will do for you. If you need to collect more reviews, make sure you're choosing a platform that helps you collect more reviews very, very easily. If your goal is to collect and monitor, make sure you choose a platform that does both. But kind of in summary, what you can do, in effect, if you choose the right system, is really kind of put a turbo on the back of your review collection process and make it very, very easy to collect hundreds of reviews. That's not out of the ordinary for us to see. But make sure you're choosing the tool that works best for you. And I just reiterated this is a screenshot of our dashboard. If anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to us. But we're going to do our best to keep it super educational. The very last thing before we go into Q&A is if you do decide that Podium is the solution you'd like to look into, we do offer a discount code, which is just furniture-2016. If you do talk to a sales rep, make sure you use that, and we'll make sure we get a discount applied to your account. And then very last, we do like to cite our sources so you guys don't just think we're blowing smoke. And we will pass out this deck. Feel free to dig into any of these sources. You might find them useful for your particular cases, but we just wanted to make sure we reference them there. And with that said, we'll go ahead and kick it into Q&A for about the next 7 minutes.
Okay, I guess just to start off with, just a reminder, if you have any questions for us, you can just ask them through the GoTo webinar interface. First question just want to ask is, and maybe you can answer this, Nick, have there been any other retail stores that have found success with online reviews that you can cite?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do really well collecting a large number of reviews and positive reviews for a lot of retail stores. And without going into too much detail on who those are, I think that you're in a unique space where the nature of your business just lends itself to online reviews. And part of that is just for a lot of what you're selling, it's a bigger purchase, right? It's not like you're going to the grocery store and picking out some bananas. I mean, you can kind of get those anywhere. I myself recently have moved, and so part of that move, my wife has bought a lot of new furniture, and I'm telling you, she spent more time researching which couch she was going to buy and where she was going to buy it from than the house that we bought. And so you're in a really unique situation where a retailer, it's a big purchase for a lot of people. They spend a lot of time researching it. You have a lot of good time with the sales rep if you're doing it in store to build some rapport with the people you're selling to. So we do very well with retail. It's not uncommon for our retailers to collect anywhere from 30 to 50 new 5-star reviews on places like Google, Yelp, Facebook every single month.
Hey, Nico, you talked about negative reviews and responding to negative reviews, but should you respond to only negative reviews, or should you interact with your customers on positive ones as well?
Yeah, that's a good question. So obviously we recommend that you respond to every single negative review that comes in. But aside from that, we also recommend that you try and respond to roughly 1/4 of the positive reviews that you get. What you're doing by responding to that 1/4 is really giving the opportunity for your brand to kind of have a personality and a voice online. In addition to just showing potential customers that you care and you're proud about that experience that you provided. So I wouldn't stop just at negative reviews. I would make sure you're kind of diversifying your responses to those positive reviews as well.
Next question, how do I get my business to show up in the Google Maps?
Yeah, so we kind of talked about this one a little bit earlier on. One of the best ways that you can make sure that you're appearing in the Google Map Pack, and for those of you who don't know what the Map Pack is, basically it's the box that shows up at the top of the search results page after someone searches for a product or a service near them. So like I said, it could be a furniture store in Miami, Florida. That Map Pack, which is going to be that box, pops up at the very top. And it's generally the first thing people see. But how you can optimize to make sure you land there really kind of falls around making sure that you have your citations correct, meaning your name, address, and phone number all correct and consistent across a bunch of directory profiles. If you have questions on this, I won't get too far in depth, but if you have questions, we have a couple of really, really good blog posts on our website that talk about how to do this most effectively. And then just to kind of add to that is to collect reviews. Reviews account for a pretty substantial portion of the local search algorithm. So if you're doing those two things, you've got a really good leg up on most of your competition. And then the other thing I would just say to those who aren't completely aware of the Map Pack is you really do want to do everything in your power to show up in that Map Pack, because that box is actually showing up about 93% of the time for all local searches, meaning if you can ensure that you're up at the top of that box, you're basically getting free exposure. 93% of the time people are searching for furniture stores or retail shops in your area. So those are kind of the two ways that I'd ensure that you're optimized for it, and the reasoning why you want to be optimized.
Just a reminder, if anyone has any questions, just submit them through the GoToWebinar. We have time for maybe one more, unless we have any others come in. So we talked a lot about local search. Could you maybe, for those that don't know, maybe describe the difference between like organic search, local search, and paid search?
Yeah, definitely. So one thing I just wanted to build on, since it's in the same topic from Nico saying, is local SEO is going to be really important. Like Nico touched on, 80% of the clicks come from the Map Pack. And a lot of the businesses that I work with are spending a lot of money for search engine optimization. So keywords, different things that they're trying to build up. And one of the things that can really make you different from every company that's doing this is going to be online reviews. And so while everyone can really spend the money with an SEO company to help build up a lot of those other things that are going to impact it, one of the biggest differences that you have control over as a business is going to be those online reviews. So even if someone shows up a little bit higher, the likelihood of them clicking on you with a higher star rating and more reviews is actually going to go up. So just wanted to reemphasize the impact that the online reviews have on not only helping you climb up in the search rankings, but also just helping you get clicked once people see you on that first page.
Yeah, that's good insight. The other piece I'd add to that original question is the difference between local organic SEO and PPC is local really, like we said, it's location based. It's, searches and results that are happening within a geographic location. Whereas organic is really along the lines of how do I tie my shoelace, or what color paint does Home Depot carry, or whatever, right? It's super generic. You should let the major brands worry about the organic piece, because what you're really trying to capture is the people in your area. And then the second, as far as PPC goes, PPC does a really good job of rounding out your digital strategy. But what you're really doing is paying for positioning at the top of those search results. And a lot of people will actually notice that is an ad and skip right over them and straight to those first search results, whether they're local or organic. So that's kind of the main difference between the three. And really, the best thing you can do is make sure you approach around all of them. But like Nick kind of touched on, if you're going to focus on one, local SEO is the one you really, really want to focus on.
Just want to thank everyone for joining us today. Just to remember, this webinar has been recorded, excuse me, and will be available on the Furniture Today website. I just want to thank Nico and Nick for the insights they've shared, and that will end the webinar.